like in every way, like trees, brush, everything was grown up like super high. So you couldn't really see or hear. There was no information coming out of the lot really, except this guy who would like walk up the street and go to work at the grocery store right up the street and then walk home every once in a while. And that's the only thing until at some point he was a hoarder. He'd pick stuff out of the trash. There was like tons of bicycles in there. Every chair that anybody ever threw away in our neighborhood was in his house. If a painting, like books, albums, like everything. Like, and so when we moved in, it must not have been that bad. It must have just been like kind of stuff stacked up on tables at the point we moved in. And at some point it got like halfway up over the walls with like your classic hoarder paths. Toilet stopped working. He started shitting in a bucket and then dumping it in the yard. And that was the real catalyst of everything. We're like, what the fuck is happening? You can't even fix your toilet. And he wouldn't talk to us. And at the same
was he ever vocal with you though? I mean, was he always like
his answer was always I'm working on it. I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to fix it. That was always his answer to everything. Are you going to cut your yard? Yeah, I'm going to do something about it. What about the smell? I'm going to fix it soon. Like that's what he would always say. And he wouldn't. He'd just go to work at the grocery store, come back. And at the same time, he had a cat. And at some point, he went from feeding his cat a bowl of cat food every day or whatever to every 2 or 3 days bringing a 50-pound bag of cat food home from the grocery store and just apparently like slitting it open on the floor so that the rats, which, you know, eventually developed raccoons, possums, all these things were in his house, like just in a big free-for-all of wildlife. And then the ceiling was packed with bees.
Oh,
there
Jesus.
were basically the entire ceiling was filled with this giant, massive beehive.
Oh my God. That sounds terrible.
His girlfriend would sleep on the porch because the buzzing was so loud it would keep her up.
You're fucking kidding me.
Dead serious, yeah.
How old
and also
was this
because
guy?
rats would run across her arms and legs. He was like, it's hard to say, but like 40 to 50 range, something like that.
That's an early time to lose your shit.
He was a guy, his parents had the house, they died, he ended up at the house, his sister was like out of the picture, and he had a job at the grocery store. He didn't have a car. He had a car, but it didn't run, so he never really went anywhere. But like, he went to this one place where he worked. He went to this one restaurant with like cheap burgers, and he would get burgers every day, and and then he'd feed his fucking rats, dude. And then it all came to a head. I think it was.
I mean, okay, to back up a little bit, you literally started almost a comedy bit out of this because of how ridiculous this was.
I never really can find the punches in the story to make it into a comedy. It grew into such a arduous, because at this, like the point in the story that I've reached, we are not even to the point we really know there are rats. That we just know this guy's dumping his shit buckets and that it's annoying and we want him to stop, and it stinks every once in a while, right? Like, and so like I think it was, I forget the name of the hurricane, but there was a hurricane. We kind of rode out the worst of it, and it was storming a little bit, and I went out to the backyard to kind of scope out the damage, see what was up.
Right.
Walking the perimeter, I get to the side of the house that he's on, and there's just fucking rats in the windows just running back and forth. Like the mice in a pet store, you know, just so many that it's inconceivable. And that's when I kind of first got the idea that there were rats in there, and a number of rats in there. And then we tried
bees in the ceiling, and
didn't even know about the bees at this point. That all came way later. My other neighbor, the neighbor on the other side, knew about the bees because the main entrance hole was on her side, and she couldn't get in and out of her back door because of the bee traffic into this guy's fucking roof.
Oh my God!
And and then we tried getting the county involved for a long time,
right?
And they just gave us their thing was, well, he won't invite us into the property, so we can't check it out. All we can do is stand in the right of way and see what we can see from the right of way. And you could see a lot of shit from the right of way. They weren't even really getting into everything you could see from the right of way. But what they would do was write him up for overgrown lawn, and then he would mow a patch of grass out of the mess and then take the sign down every time. And so like we were like, what else can we do?
No, I mean, as a grieving neighbor, you're like, I don't know. But
then if he would say, what's going on? He'd say, I'm fixing it. I'd say, do you want some help? He'd say, I'm working on it. Just leave me alone. That was always the answer.
He was an isolationist.
And then one day, it was actually my other neighbor was out walking her dog, and he dumped a shit bucket, and then that always immediately made like a smell bomb in the neighborhood. It would make it stink. And she was so disgusted that he did it like right in front of her. And it was just like putrid, this wave of putridity washed across her. She fucking hit up Martha Segalski on Facebook, and they got whatever that station, Wesh, or whatever the one Segalski's on.
Yeah, I think it was Wesh.
Yeah, I forget.
It's in the fucking news. Okay.
And then so that they sent out like not even a crew. They sent out like a producer to like scope it out because they don't want to waste the cameraman's time and stuff. Right. So the guy shows up and he's like, "What do you got? You got mice? What do you got?" And because apparently they get a lot of calls where like somebody's like, my neighbor's house is full of rats," and it's like a mouse that they caught in a mouse trap on their property. And so the rats it was such if it was hot, they would be dormant, right? And so like this guy showed up and it was kind of sunny out, so they weren't running around in the windows. They were in the fucking house, laying in the filth and fucking breeding or whatever the fuck they did. And so the guy kind of came and looked around, and he could see like I showed him like my property line. I said overgrown. And I said, "You can smell the smell, right?" He's like, "Yeah, no." And because he was completely uninterested, and he's like, he kind of made a call, and I could tell he was like kind of like negative. And but it started to cloud over a little bit. And the rats started running in the window. And I was like, hey, look, there's a rat. There's a rat. And he's like, and he comes over and he looks, oh my God. And he's on the phone. And he goes, no, we got New York City sized rats here. And they were huge rats. But like the guy was excited. And that was the point where he saw a couple of them in the window. It's like, no, send the camera out. We got New York City sized rats here.
He turned into fucking Newsies, and he's all like,
"Correct,
Johnny, we got a story. Johnny, we got a fucking story over here. We're gonna do this."
Just, he animated, and he became that guy. Yeah,
it was so great because I saw the news footage, and I knew that you were somehow involved. I was like, "Oh shit, this is gonna be something." And you started a fucking Facebook group about rat house updates, and I swear to God, it is some of the best internet stuff that nobody knows about.
Yeah, I nuked that group. That's all gone. So,
man, don't tell me that.
I added. It was supposed to be just for people who bought the t-shirt, and then I just added like everybody that asked me eventually, and then it eventually got to the point where because it all happened and it's over now, and there's like people living in that fucking house now, so like there's no more real rat house updates. So that group just became
there is updates.
Anytime there was a news story about rats, 8 to 10 people would post it in that group, and I don't
want that to be the centralized place for rat house postings.
And I legitimately do not like rats anymore. Like, I'm not claiming PTSD or trauma or anything, but I've personally so like kind of the short end of the story is when this guy, when the news got involved, the county did get involved, and he actually he sold the house.
Right.
And another investor came in and like cleaned it out, quote unquote. That was a fucking nightmare in and of itself. And but when the guy moved out and he stopped feeding the rats, they kind of dispersed from the house. And so we were having nightly issues where like rats were coming into our property, nightly and daily, like constantly, until
well, they gotta go somewhere too.
So I've personally murdered hundreds of rats, like with traps, by drowning, by bludgeoning, with a pellet gun. I've murdered dozens upon dozens upon dozens of rats with various pellet guns, just in the defense of my own property. You understand? Like, not actively seek. I don't go out in the woods in camo like and look for scat on the ground. I, in my own urban house, homestead, yard, had to defend myself against a horde of rats, to the point where I've personally murdered and disposed of the bodies of, to the normal person, an unimaginable amount of rats. So like, I don't like rats anymore, and I don't
fucking blame you, man.
I don't want the fucking link going around Facebook where they eat fried rat in some other country or whatever, or the fucking, it goes viral like every 6 months with the Indian guys who are paid to catch rats and trash with their bare hands and stuff. Like, I could do without all this. Even like a cartoony rat in a movie now, I'm like, do not like. I just really do not like rats at all.
You just look at fucking Mickey Mouse and like, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, he's anthropomorphic. I never like Mickey, so, but yeah. now that you're making me think about it, yeah, fuck that mouse.
This is I've wanted to talk to Rat House about you for so long.
Boy.
You have no idea. Like, I see you, from what you just said in your statement, I see you sitting in the basement of Patty's Pub with a baseball bat being Charlie, just going fucking hard in town.
There was
rats.
there was a lot of Charlie work, dude.
That really
one
sucks, dude.
particular night when it was at its peak, I remember getting I think it was a 12-pack of what's the one and only, the
Was it High Life?
No. It's Newcastle. We had a 12-pack of Newcastle, and like we set up a table with all my pellet guns, and we had a little cooler going, and my wife was there, just like loading guns and handing them to me. And the main thing was, like, at this time the yard was overgrown. There was he had a palm tree in his yard, and there was just a bunch of vines to the trees in my yard, and we called them the rat highways. They would run back and forth in the vines, and so I sat there and just plinked them out of the vines and the trees, and my wife kept count until I think like somewhere in the 20s. She's like, please stop making me count. And this was only like, this wasn't like I nicked one and we could kind of see it keep running on the vine. This was ones I hit and they fell to the ground, confirmed kill, you know, like. And that was, I'm going to say, 4 beers in, and I killed the 12-pack that night, and I did not have any pause in the rat murder. It just continued.
It was
incessantly.
The genocide of the Rat House rats.
No, that wasn't even the genocide. That was like a drop in the bucket on one of the worst nights.
I have a really bad joke, and I'm not going to make it.
It's your show, homie. Make it.
I know I'm not going to. Okay. I'm going to piss some people off if I make that one.
A lot of if it fell on his property, we didn't have to clean it up because the other rats would eat them. We knew that. So,
my God, that's very Hannibal Lecter.
If you like the news guys stories, we like the one of the pieces of video that we had that interested them. One day I just went and like just scoped out the line to see what was up, and on his porch a rat had like another rat's head and it was eating it, and so the news guys loved that. He thought he was going to run with that, but I think when he got back to the station, somebody was like, no, we can't put that on the fucking 6 o'clock news. People are eating goddamn dinner.
That's morbid as shit, Barry. What the fuck?
He thought he was going to lead with that. So he was like, a rat eating a rat on a porch in Orange. And he tried doing it like 6 different news voices. He's like, a rat eating a rat on a porch in an Orange County. A rat eating another rat.
Rat inception. So bad. But the news stories were so great. You know, from an outside observer, it looked like you fucking had the greatest bit building. And you were like, this is not where I want comedy to go.
It was not pleasant at all. Like I know it's hopefully at some point I will see the punches in it and make a bit out of it, but I could probably just tell it as a story and get reactions, but you know,
situational comedy, I suppose.
The news one time they came out a couple times. One of the times they came out, they were like just getting set up, not even doing the thing they wanted to do, and a rat just was running down the fucking street. Just running down the street, and they were like, "Look, get the footage!" And they were taking footage, and I had my van out in the street, and I was like, it's going to run right to my fucking van. And I was like, why is it running I don't know why it's running in my van, but it's clearly going to run right to my fucking van. And I'd let it go because I didn't want to go fucking murder a rat with I had an axe handle that I did most of my bludgeoning with. I didn't want to grab my axe handle and run out like a madman and beat this rat to death in front of a news crew, clearly filming me.
Hey, everybody, that's Ross McCoy.
Just didn't
2016 comic of the year.
Didn't even want that footage to exist, you know. And but the thing was running right to my van, and I resisted as long as I could, and then it got so close, I had to grab my fucking axe handle and run out. And I was just trying to swat it away from the van at first, and then I full on like started trying to beat it. But like, but normally at this point I would not even like hesitate. I would just like straight to the brain, bash, bash, bash. But with the news, I was a little bit hesitant, and it did get away from me. And so just footage of me grabbing an axe handle, running after a rat, like playing hockey with it for a second, and then it gets away from me. And I was like, and I walked back to the guys and I was like, guys, it would benefit you greatly to go back and make me look like a maniac. I'm sure that would be hilarious footage, and I fully understand if you do it, but please don't. Please, please, please do not make me look like an asshole. And all they did really was like a shot of me walking down the road with an axe handle. They actually made me look kind of cool, like fucking, like walking tall.
You became Bruce Willis.
I was the walking tall of rats for a minute, yeah. And
I'm not gonna make you look like Dexter, but
they could have made me look like a real asshole. They could have put like yakety sax under it, like me, like Slapping a rat down the street. Yeah.
And they could have even done that whole British thing, you know, the one running through doors and you chasing the rat.
The Scooby-Doo. Yeah, sure.
So you're the rat whisperer. God. Dude, that seriously had to suck so fucking bad because rats suck. Dude, I've lived in Chicago. I know how shitty rats are. And you have